Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live from our studios here at Kokomlimle. It's Joy997 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are live on Love 99.5 FM and affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Radio Justice, Bishara Radio, and Might FM, all in Tamale, Gaskia FM in Techiman, and Victory FM in Aflao. You can also download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live around the world. In this edition, as university lecturers fashion out a roadmap to halt their 3-week industrial action, tertiary students are asking for more time to adequately prepare for the end of semester exams.
The challenges to some extent made students, take the attention of academics. But I'm actually looking at maybe at least a week for students to prepare themselves.
Me per se, since that the strike up to now, I've not opened the book.
We have updates on the status of that industrial action, and also President Akufo-Addo meets heads of student unions in the country. Updates on that. President Akufo-Addo also describes as unfortunate public perception that his government is doing very little in the fight against corruption, as he explains why he was hesitant to announce replacement for the former Auditor General Daniel Domelevo.
The circumstances in which the first Auditor General left, to some extent, constrained me in the manner in which I responded to his successor.
Also in this package,
snakes and rats have now taken over the factory. Sometimes I cry.
All this was strategic investment. Such promises have been coming and gone, and we are not seeing anything.
As $36.5 million Comenda Sugar Factory continues to rust away after several government assurances of revamping it, we'll hear from the transaction advisors on what is hindering them from starting operations. And also in the bulletin, we have State of Play later, and we focus on the living conditions of Ghanaians 5 years into the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government.
I'm ready to be sacked. You can look at my face.
You work with Ghana Education Service.
I don't care.
That's where you earn your daily bread.
Daily bread? Did you say daily bread? The bread is not up to it. You can even call it quarter.
We have sports.
That will be in 20 minutes, where former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan says Ghana has no option but to win the next Africa Cup of Nations. We gauge his thoughts.
And later in showbiz, High Life artist KK Fosu prepares to stage a big comeback after several years out of the spotlight.
KK Fosu is about to drop the I'm Back album. We are into farming. KK Fosu is about to project, the youth.
We have that and more in this package. I am Emefa Apau. We settle for the details shortly. Many thanks for your company. This is your home of bold, credible, and fearless journalism. This afternoon, Joy News checks have revealed that the $36.5 million Comenda Sugar Factory in the central region is rusting away. Machines are corroded and the roofs are torn. The factory was revamped by the Mahama administration in 2016, but has been lying idle since, government attributing the delay in start of operations to yet to be concluded discussion with a strategic investor. Jojo Kobna visited the facility and has come through with this report.
So as I speak, every single cube of sugar that we eat here in Ghana is imported from outside. Commander is going to change that.
Excitement created the commissioning of the sugar factory in 2016. Fortunately, the facility shut down in July 2016 because of inadequate sugarcane. It was due to reopen in October 2016, but never did to date.
The amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think the ASR organization, and also the Betumi strategic investor, and also it to me about Bisomu.
But it took 2 years before the government announced a new investor for the sugar factory.
This factory, like any other factory, will keep on needing ongoing investment, ongoing retooling, and it will bounce back.
When are you starting work?
We are waiting for the final agreements to happen. After that, we'll start working.
It is past the second week of August, and the Comenda Sugar Factory remains closed. Currently, the facility is in terrible shape. The plates and rigs that would carry the sugarcane for crushing have rushed it. A group calling itself Concerned Citizens of Komenda is upset. Their convener, Samuel Aguja, is dismayed.
I quite remember about last 2 years, the Trade Minister, Honorable Ahunkalin, said the traditional area should look for land. We've been able to do that. We've been able to secure about 3,500 acres of land, and that is even far beyond the expected 2,000. So as for the land we already have, it is now left to the government to come and operationalize. So anybody who talks about sugarcane and land issue, it's a non-starter. They shouldn't even go there.
Along the beaches of Komenda are people yearning to be employed once the factory is reopened. Joseph Eshen is unemployed.
Snakes and rats have now taken over the factory. Sometimes I cry. I cry because government went for a loan to build this factory. It is not functioning, and this new government has chosen to abandon it.
All this was strategic investor. Such promises have been coming and gone, and we are not seeing anything.
Sugarcane farmers are also disappointed.
There is no job in Komenda, and this factory would have improved the fortunes of the people.
The Member of Parliament for the Komenda Edna Iguafo Ebrim constituency, Samuel Atta Mills, asked the Trade Minister in Parliament when the factory would be operationalized.
The Ministry of Trade and Industry, working in collaboration with its transaction advisor, is in the process of concluding the conditions precedent for the activation of the concession agreement with a selected strategic partner, Park Agrotech Limited, to commence operations at the Komenda Sugar Factory.
Until the factory becomes functional, it will remain a museum of monumental wastage and failure. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
Meanwhile, transaction advisors on the agreement to revamp the Komenda Sugar Factory, PricewaterhouseCoopers, have revealed that the main issue preventing the commencement of work on the project is how to get some tax incentives for the new investor. Visha Shiagbo is senior partner at PwC, and he spoke on the Super Morning Show earlier.
When the minister went to Parliament at the end of July, he made reference to the fact that there were some conditions precedent that we needed to work through in order for the effectiveness of the contract. However, in this case, the most significant issue that we are working to deal with is a request from the strategic investor for certain tax incentives. And again, I think the minister put this in the public domain back, I think it was February, when he was going through his vetting. So the issue is that in the early stages of this operation, there will be insufficient raw material locally. So there has to be some provision made for importation of raw sugar into finished product at the factory. What we are working through now is the tax incentives package that will go with the importation of that raw sugar, but also plant and machine and other inputs that will allow the factory to operate effectively.
That's Visha Shiagbo, a senior partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers Transaction Advisors on the agreement to revamp the Komenda Sugar Factory, speaking on the Super Morning Show. Now, tertiary students across the country have appealed to lecturers to give them more time to adequately prepare for their end-of-semester examination. The students were expected to write their end-of-semester exams beginning this month. However, it was suspended due to the ongoing industrial action by UTAG. While some of the students say they haven't been able to study, others also claim they left campus for domestic activities. We'll hear from the students shortly, but the plea is coming on the back of an agreement between government and UTAG to fashion out a roadmap towards a suspension of the strike. Here's UTAG President of the University of Ghana, Dr. Samuel Nkumban.
UTAG's position is that we cannot be in court whilst we are on the negotiating table. And so it was as though going to a negotiation with a gun at your head. And so it was the case that government had a responsibility through National Labour Commission to see to it that at least the court processes against UTAG are withdrawn or discontinued. Thereafter, we also had agreed on a roadmap within the 1 month period to conclude negotiations on outstanding issues. And so if these are done, UTAG also has a responsibility to begin some initiatives towards suspension of our action, which is withdrawal of teaching and related services. And then we can get back to the negotiation table. By way of the roadmap, we have given ourselves within 1 month, effective 23rd of this month, to try and resolve all outstanding matters regarding our conditions of service. And so today is when we are going to go to court for hearing. And it's our expectation that if that goodwill is extended by virtue of this continuation of the case, then of course, our reality is that even by law, we cannot be on strike whilst we are negotiating. Yeah. And so if these premises are cleared, the understanding is that we would also have to suspend our action within the period of the 1 month when negotiations begin.
That's UTAC President at the University of Ghana, Dr. Samuel Nkumba, and they're speaking on the AM show. Meanwhile, the students who are asking for an extension of time to prepare for the exam say failure by the authorities to heed their calls will have a negative impact on their performance. We can listen to some of them on the AM show.
If the strike is going to be called off very soon and the school would have to, come up with a new examination timetable, I would only plead, or I'm actually pleading with the school's management to give students 1 week. The challenges to some extent made students, take the attention of academics. That is why early on I indicated that they were in a state of dilemma. I mean, it has its own psychological effects. To say that students are ready, that is actually true, but I'm actually looking at maybe at least a week for students to prepare themselves before we start the examination.
What we are doing is we students for now, we cannot even learn because it's like there's something in there that the kind of poster we were having to write the exam, that kind of deal has been taken off from it.
Yeah.
So now we are very confused. And even as at now, if they call off the strike today and said we should come back and write the exam, I bet you most of us are going to suffer freely. All of us, many of us have gone home. And when we go home, if you call any of the students, what are you doing? I said it said so, matter. I can't study again. No. I'm just confused.
All right.
Maybe more than a week because me per se, since that day, the strike up to now, I've not opened the book.
Some tertiary students, they're interacting with Israel Eye on the AM show. Well, we're looking out for that NLC and UTAC case in court later today, and hopefully we'll get an official announcement of the suspension of that industrial action. Joy News will definitely bring you updates of that hearing. But President Akufo-Addo is currently meeting heads of student unions in the country. Presidential Affairs correspondent Elton Brobe joins us live from the Jubilee House. Elton, what's the status of that meeting?
So, a little longer, and then we'll have that. There are 2 more events ahead of that meeting. This meeting should take place within the hour. So we have leaders of the National Union of Ghana students and others. And even before they meet the president, some of them are telling me that they want to make a passionate appeal to the president to get his Minister of Education to have a sit-down with members of UTAC in a bid to meet the demands that they've put forth. What they are saying is that they do not want to have anything disturb the academic calendar. And so basically this is the main issue that they will be asking President Akufo-Addo to intervene with the hope that the threat that is hanging around the annex will be out of the way once government is able to meet their demands.
And already, I'm sure they've started gathering. We don't know whose instance this meeting has been called, but you've been interacting with some of these leaders. How hopeful are they?
So they are hoping that with this meeting, they will be able to get an assurance from President Akufo-Addo to get his Minister of Education to have a sit-down with members of the UTAC. What they are concerned about is the academic calendar, and they have the view that with this uncertainty about when the strike will be called off and if they'll be able to meet the demands of the UTAC, they are hoping that President Akufo-Addo, with his influence, can resolve this matter once and for all.
That's Presidential Affairs correspondent Elton Brobe there, joining us from the Jubilee House on the status of a meeting between the president and student unions. And like I said, we are monitoring closely that UTAC strike and the court case between the NLC and, of course, UTAC. As and when we get more, we'll let you have it. Now, I'll take you to the eastern region, and that region is likely to record more COVID-19 cases if adequate measures are not put in place to resource environmental officers. That's according to some environmental officers there who say they are compelled to use tricycles, otherwise known as abubuya, and mini trucks to convey COVID-19 infected corpses to the cemeteries for burial. This, according to the acting district environmental health officer for Denchemwo, Yao Akwalate, is due to the lack of health services to perform such tasks. Mr. Akwalate revealed this to the media when the district's environmental department buried 2 COVID-19 infected corpses at Akwetia in the eastern region.
I mean vehicle, motorbikes, even computers, for us to be able to store data on this COVID has been a challenge. Some of us don't even have offices in our sub-district zones. We go there to the communities, engage the communities, and we come home. We come home just like that. This COVID, as you can see, and your comments can take, we use private health from St. Dominic's Hospital, which shouldn't be so, because the Public Health Act, Section 3, has mandated environmental health officers to stop vehicles traveling in or traveling from an infected area. This is the case that environmental health officers don't have even the private health nor a vehicle to convey the COVID dead bodies to the final disposal site, that's the cemetery, making the work very difficult for us to do. Okay.
That's the acting district environmental health officer for Denchemwo in the eastern region, Yao Akwalate. Here in Accra, environmental health officers of the AMA have today buried bodies of persons who died from COVID-19 at the Awudome Cemetery. Mamesi Nyameche Thompson is with them. She joins us with details. We understand more bodies were expected to be buried later. Tell us a bit more about it.
So, MFI environmental health officials covered the graves of 5 bodies at the Awudome Cemetery a while ago. In all, 8 bodies are expected to be buried today. The burial team lead, Joseph Asetanga, tells me that the 2 other bodies will be buried here at the cemetery, and then 1 more will be cremated. He also tells me that since the wave, burials have been going on every week, right from the morgue, all COVID protocols are strictly followed. We are all dressed in PPEs, and every single item is disinfected to ensure that nobody carries away the virus. But interestingly, some relatives who came to view the burial are still in disbelief that COVID exists. MFA.
That's my colleague Mamiesi Nyameche Thompson reporting from the Awudome Cemetery. We'll stay on COVID-related matters because former President John Mahama has accused government of misapplying funds allocated for Ghana's fight against COVID-19 to induce voters in the 2020 elections. He cited the provision of free water, electricity and the distribution of motorbikes in the lead-up to the elections as some ways the government misappropriated the funds for its personal gains. Mr. Mahama, however, said in spite of the clear vote-buying efforts, the NDC hosted an impressive performance and must be proud. He was speaking to party supporters at Nalerugu in the northeast region as part of his thank you tour.
And we all know what happened. The finance minister came and said they used 19 billion cedis on COVID relief. And we know where that 19 billion cedis went. Free light, free water, ayamna. You know what I mean when I say ayamna? That is what that money was meant for. And in spite of that, we posted a very impressive performance.
Former President John Dramani Mahama there. Now, President Akufo-Addo has for the first time admitted he was constrained in naming a successor to the former Auditor General Daniel Domelevo, largely because of the circumstances that led to his exit. The President in March this year directed the Auditor General to proceed on retirement. He's also been asked speaking to corruption-related issues and says the country is still paying for the circumstances that led to the retirement of Mr. Domelevo. Presidential Affairs Correspondent Elton Robe reports.
Let's start with the audit service, and President Akufo-Addo has commended the acting Auditor General Johnson Akuamo-Asiedu for his work in the fight against corruption since his appointment. Interacting with the Anti-Corruption Coalition, President Akufo-Addo said Mr. Johnson Akuamo-Asiedu has demonstrated the quality of work and independence of view so far. For him, those are clear indications of his professionalism and readiness to fight corruption.
The circumstances in which the first Auditor General left, to some extent, constrained me in the manner in which I responded to his successor. I believe the one who has succeeded him who has not demonstrated sufficient quality. For instance, he's responsible for something that is unheard of in our history, the 12 statutory reports that have to be compiled and placed before Parliament in the year of Parliament. This is the first time it has ever been done. Even the much touted Auditor General before never managed to do it. I think that on the basis of the work that he has done, if today efforts are made to confirm him, which I believe should be done.
Ghana improved her score on the latest Corruption Perception Index. The 2020 report released by Transparency International saw the country score 43 points out of a possible 100. Despite the high level of perception in the country, President Akufo-Addo said he has done more in resourcing anti-graft agencies than any other regime.
It's unfortunate that the perception is that the commitment of government is waning, especially when 2 or 3 facts are taken into account. I don't think that any government has mobilized the resources to give the opportunity for the anti-corruption agencies of the state to function as efficiently as possible, as this government has done. It's a matter of record. The judicial process, what is involved in the anti-corruption, is one that I am very reluctant to tamper with.
Well, for some civil society organizations demanding the president attend to alleged corrupt practices involving some of his appointees, he has this response for you.
The line between them being independent commentary and being politically related commentary is very, very thin. And in many, many cases, there are lines that are in fact crossed. There are civil society organizations that mounted campaigns to make sure that I did not continue to sit in this seat. I cannot overlook that when I hear them continuing to attack my government and its works, that these were not people who were in any way either objective or sympathetic to what I was doing. So if I tend not to pay too much attention to what they say, a lot of objective people would appreciate the point of the position that I take.
On the Founders' Day, which fell on the 4th of August, thousands of Ghanaians took to the streets of Accra under the Fix the Country banner, demanding, among others, a review of the 1992 Constitution. But will this happen?
To change the constitutional arrangements that have assisted this durability, we should be very careful how we go about it. I feel very strongly on that point, and that is why I have not lent my support to the idea of this wholesale review of the Constitution.
President Akufo-Addo ending Elton John Brobe's report. Let me bring in the chairman of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. He led that group to the Jubilee House to meet the president. We are grateful for your time, Nana Osei-Bonsu. So you heard the president. The commitment to the fight against corruption is intact, not waning at all. Convinced or satisfied with the responses you got from the president?
Say that again.
No, I'm asking that you visited the president and you heard him mention that the commitment to the fight against corruption is still intact, not waning at all. That satisfies you?
Yes, it does satisfy me because, you see, he mentioned capacitating state institutions that are entrusted and in charge of fighting corruption. So that and bringing capacity to those institutions is very pertinent to fight going forward.
And from your interaction, you get a sense that government is showing enough will in dealing with issues of corruption especially.
When you say enough will, what do you mean by that?
You heard him. There are concerns about our fight against corruption, but he tells you that there's enough commitment to that fight. You listen to him. That's why I'm asking if you,
and that
from
is
what
why
you get.
I said that he mentioned capacitating state institutions to be able to do what they need to do. The Attorney General, RAG, and other institutions. So when he said the will, I don't understand what the will means. I don't want to bring connotations into what I didn't hear.
So going forward, though, with what you heard, you are hopeful that our fight against corruption will be won?
I would believe that it's a concerted effort from citizenry, plus the government, plus the entire society to fight corruption. Because if you know that the private sector sometimes are accused of being the supply chain of corruption, and we also try that the state institutions are the ones perpetrating corruption. So it's a concerted effort on the part of everybody.
Okay.
So I'm not going to lay the blame on the part of the president didn't do this or the president didn't do that. But if an individual is caught taking money or taking any kind of benefit, personal benefit from servicing the entrust obligations the state put on him, then that is the problem. But I think that Ghanaians to wake up to the point where we all collectively hold accountable every person in the community as to how we handle corruption. Avoid police bribery, avoid any kind of using influence to get your daughter to school, going to the principal. These are perpetrating corruption tendencies. So it's not only coming from the highest level of government, but through the citizenry participation.
Okay. So as a coalition, briefly, just before I let you off, so as a coalition, for instance, led by yourself.
I can hardly hear you.
I'll try again, briefly. I'm saying that as a chairman of the coalition, the anti-corruption coalition, there have been concerns, for instance, about the health minister and this Sputnik procurement contract. As a coalition, you have no qualms at all about this particular contract?
What contract are you talking about? The ministry?
I'm talking about the Sputnik V procurement contract.
I haven't reviewed the Sputnik.
Okay.
But I don't like the approach that the minister himself said that they didn't follow the rules. Once there's rules of engagement and somebody does not follow that, I don't think it should be in the position to continue in office.
Okay, we are grateful. We'll leave it here. That's Nana Osei Bonsu, chairman of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, there after their meeting with President Akufo-Addo. And our top stories are university lecturers as they fashion out a roadmap to halt their 3-week national action. Tertiary students are asking for more time to adequately prepare for the end of semester examination. And we are watching that court case between the National Labour Commission and UTAG. When we return from the break, we have sports, and then later in showbiz, we'll talk about High Life artist KK Fosu as he prepares to stage his big comeback after several years out of the spotlight.
KK Fosu is about to drop the Ambak album. We are into farming. KK Fosu is about to project, the youth.
Hello, class. Mental. What is 2 and 3?
23.
2 and 4.
24.
2 and 5.
Sonata.
It's been 25 amazing years with you. And to celebrate this huge milestone, we're giving away 25 brand new sleek Hyundai Sonata vehicles and lots of exciting prizes in the MTN at 25 promo. Just keep using your MTN number and talk, text, browse, and Momo more to gain points. And you could win one of 25 brand new sleek Hyundai Sonata vehicles and lots of cash prizes each month in the MTN at 25 promo. Dial *156# today and begin your journey to win big. Only on MTN. Everywhere you go.
The theaters are open.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports. Nathaniel Ato, what do we have?
Yeah, we expect
now, former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan is eager to see Ghana lift the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations, which will be hosted in Cameroon. Now, Ghana has lost 3 finals since winning it in 1982. Now, the country's all-time top scorer with 51 goals has featured for the country in 2 of those 3 finals. In 2010 in against Egypt, and against Ivory Coast in 2015. Gyan, who was part of the 2022 AFCON draw in Yaoundé on Tuesday evening, wants nothing but the trophy.
Yeah, we're expecting a good tournament, of course. It's a big moment for Africa. When it talk about African Cup, every African is ready for this event. We are also ready here, and we cannot wait for this day because it's very, really important event for Africa. Yeah, nothing at all than to win the cup. Because since 2008 we've been always in the semi-finals. And now I think everybody is tired back home. Everybody wants the cup. It doesn't matter the performance or anything. We just won the cup. We've got a young team, but we'll see how it goes because other countries are also coming to win. So everything will depend on us.
Well, that's your dose of sport. Back to you, MF.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. And salaries and living conditions in the country amidst unfulfilled promises has been topical this week, with aggrieved workers vowing to resist any adjustments below 10%. 5 years ago, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia got Ghanaians talking with his numerous speeches in the run-up to the 2016 elections and definitely made a mark with this particular mantra.
Teachers are suffering. Teacher trainees are suffering. Nurses are suffering. And nursing trainees are suffering. Patients are suffering. Students are suffering. Traders are suffering. Pensioners are suffering.
Well, later today on the 4th edition of Politically Incorrect State of Play, our crack political team will analyze the living conditions of the ordinary Ghanaian. Winston Amoah has more.
And we get to pass the verdict and tell you whether or not life is better 5 years after an Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration. Because you heard Bawumia make those points. He talked about all professions and eventually ended on Ghanaians are suffering. Are Ghanaians better off? Well, it's always important to give governments feedback. I mean, the president says we should be citizens and not spectators. And so he needs that feedback to, govern. And so that's why we're giving the government feedback and would also share our own experiences.
State of Play is at 2:30 p.m. today on all our social media platforms, Facebook, everywhere. You got to catch it. Let's bring in Mapitso Sibidi. What do we have in showbiz?
And in showbiz, Ghanaian hip life musician KK Fosu has revealed that he's ready to release his comeback album. The #1 hitmaker, who's been off the scene for a while, says he's on a mission to empower the youth.
Lord, KK Fosu is about to drop the I'm Back album. People should watch out. And KK Fosu is about to do so many things. We are into farming. KK Fosu is about to project talent. I mean, the youth. We need to empower the youth. Ghana, we lack so many things. And I think it's about time for you and I to wake up. We shouldn't depend on any politician or any leader in quote, Dada, Osha, Onyene Papa. No. Don't depend on. Wake up. And let's enter into agriculture.
And that's KK Fosu there, ending today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy997FM, myjoyonline.com. I'll continue to listen to divergent views despite efforts to thwart my re-election bid. Akufo-Addo to CSOs. UTAC hasn't suspended strike. The decision will depend on steps taken by NLC Unemployment Minister Dr. Samuel Nkumba and their Commander Sugar Factory, a rusting investment. That's and more on myjoyonline.com. Lead Me, Lord is a topic for Living Word with Pastor Mansell Tabil. Many thanks for your company. I am MFA Paul.
The theaters are open. The stage is ready. COVID protocols intact. All set for the first of its kind. Finest and funniest open-air theater. Something must kill a man. A play by Latifa Bubakar.
This